At 4:33 a.m. on August 21, 1942, a Japanese grenade bounced once off a sandbag, dropped into a shallow pit on the west bank of the Tanaru River, and came to rest against a young Marine's knee. Private Al Schmid had just enough time to recognize the metallic clink before the world went white. The blast lifted him, slammed him into the back of the emplacement, and filled his face with steel and sand. He grabbed for his eyes and felt only blood and torn skin. There was no horizon, no muzzle flash, no river, just black, complete, permanent black. Somewhere inches away, the Browning M1917A1 was still hot and ready, its water jacket hissing through a new bullet hole, its barrel one bad decision away from failure. Somewhere beyond the lip of the pit, 800 Japanese infantry of Colonel Ichiki's elite regiment were still charging across a sandbar, screaming, firing, trying to crack open the thin marine line between them and Henderson Field. And in that critical sector of the perimeter, the only thing left between them and the airfield now was one blind private and a corporal with a hole through his arm. 3 hours earlier, nobody in H Company would have picked Schmid as the man to hold the line. He was 21, an apprentice steel burner from Philadelphia who had enlisted 2 days after Pearl Harbor. He'd learned the Browning on the ranges at Parris Island, learned how to feed belts, top off the water jacket, clear jams, but he was not the gunner. That job belonged to Private First Class Johnny Rivers, a calm practiced machine gunner with 6 months on the weapon. Corporal Leroy Diamond was the experienced number 2, the beltman and spare set of eyes. Schmid was the new kid, the third man in the pit. Their position was textbook by the standards of an undersupplied, half-starved division. A shallow hole carved into the west bank of the Tanaru, fronted by sandbags and coconut, logs, roofed with palm fronds. 50 yards of open water and sandbar lay between them and the jungle on the far side. Exactly the kind of killing ground a Browning could turn into hell. Behind them, 3 miles inland, lay Henderson Field, still raw coral and pierced steel planking, but already the most important piece of real estate in the South Pacific. Lose Henderson, and the Marines lost Guadalcanal. Lose Guadalcanal, and the Allies lost their first real foothold against Japan. The Japanese Ichiki detachment had marched west from Taivu Point with orders to smash that foothold in a single night. Ichiki's men were veterans of China and Manchuria. They believed American Marines were soft, poorly trained, untested. For 72 hours they moved through jungle without serious contact and convinced themselves that belief was true. At 3 o'clock a.m., green signal flares arced over the river. Schmid heard boots in shallow water, shouted orders in Japanese, the clatter of rifles being loaded. Rivers waited, steady behind the Browning, until the first wave reached midstream. Then he opened fire. For 40 minutes, the gun never really stopped. Diamond fed belt after belt. Schmid poured canteens into the boiling water jacket. Bodies piled up on the sandbar. More men came on behind them, stepping on their own dead. Then a single grenade took out the neighboring machine gun, and every surviving Japanese on that front shifted fire toward Rivers' pit. One bullet tore through Diamond's arm. Another punched a hole in the cooling jacket. Steam and water sprayed across Schmid's chest as the Browning glowed from dull red to orange. And then that last grenade found its way into the pit and turned a scared 21-year-old into a blind man with his hands on the only weapon still holding the Tanaru line.